Welcome, 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 welcome. Activate your power now. Activate voice. This is our last event for this year, finishing off our series, Activate Your Power. Thank you for coming all the way to the Southland, Grandview, Missouri. For those who got lost along the way, thank you for sticking it out and making it through.
Yes.
But today we came here just to open up a space where we can be present with each other, where we can speak from our hearts, connect with our minds, and allow our spirits to blend just for a moment. And from there, seeing what may come from that. So before we start, I just want to ground the space. I know we might have a lot of things going on in our lives, energy, emotions being stirred. So I want to allow that to just settle for a bit before we engage with our speakers. So I want everybody, if you feel comfortable, just to put your feet firmly on the ground and close your eyes. We want to bring our attention to our body. So I want you to bring your attention to your feet, feeling your toes, moving it against the sole of your shoes and the floor. Bring your attention to your hands, your fingers. What do you feel? Moving your attention to your bottom, bringing your attention to your chair, grounding yourself in your seat right now, realizing that I'm safe in my body and I'm supported where I'm at right now today. Releasing any motion in your mind that says things has to look a certain way. My voice has to sound a certain way today. No, today we release that notion and we allow the natural rhythm of you to be expressed on this stage. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Exposing and releasing any limitation that says otherwise. Take one more breath in, breathing in love and breathing out joy. Remembering why you're here today in this moment. This is Activate Your Voice, where your voice is a tool for liberation, releasing any limitations that may cloud your judgments, that may cloud your heart, that may say, I need to be in the shoulds, where you need to be, oh, this is where I need, this is what I want, this is who I am. So bask in that for a second, and when you feel comfortable, just open your eyes. And just sit in that for a moment before we begin. So we have a beautiful lineup today.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And, I want to add in that when we created this lineup at the beginning of the year, or this series at the beginning of the year, we had no idea it was going to be our final year of running our speaker series, as you all have known it to be in the past. So it just filled my heart that we have the lineup that we do to close this together, to close this chapter and move on to all the beautiful things that we have been activated in these last 4 years. So yes, when we say we are honored to have the lineup that we have today, I sincerely want to thank each and every one of you for being here today and being a part of us closing this chapter.
So when we think of Activate Voice, what comes to your mind? Spit it out.
Truth.
We got a lot of speakers in here.
Purpose.
Purpose. What do you say?
Truth.
Truth. Truth. Purpose.
Strength.
Growth. Strength.
Home.
Home. Right. What do these qualities represent? Right. Virtues. Right. But also at the same time, like, what voice are we activating? Because there's many voices. Right. There's that voice that's loud, that's telling you things, And maybe those things that you do don't end up the way you want it to be. And then there's times when you're able to listen to that still voice inside of you, that small voice that whispers, and you realize, oh, when I listen to this voice, everything kind of lines up for me. But then also when I listen to the other voice, it may seem tempting and exciting, but then on the other end, I feel like, oh, I lost something, I'm depleted. So how do we reconcile and build a bridge between the loud voice that sometimes causes a lot of confusion and chaos in your mind, and the in between, the small voice that sits there and waits right here, right now, what we're doing, stepping up, speaking our truth, not being afraid, not being bogged down by shoulds and what we think we need to be doing, and just do what is being called. See, that's the challenge. And that's why we're here right now in this building. If you're here right now, it's because you're listening to that inner voice. Even when things may not look like they're going the way you need to be going, things are happening in the background. And when you constantly show up, that voice gets louder, it gets sharper, it gets clearer. And you know, okay, I'm getting the hang of this now. I can walk, I can trust, I can relax and surrender and be calm. And things open up, doors, pathways open.
Right, and then that secretly and silently, without you even recognize it, starts morphing into confidence, right? It starts morphing into your voice projecting a little bit louder, a little bit more powerful because it has meaning behind it.
And to me, that's what our first speaker embodies. Meaning behind his words. The ability to step on stage and deliver a message because he's coming from a resonance that's true, a resonance that's centered, and not trying to prove himself, just trying to share his light without attachment to how it's received. And you can tell in the voice and how he approaches this craft and how he approaches people. So this is a gift that we have for you. So I want you to get up if you feel called. Start clapping. Let's give it up for Chuck.
What's good, people? First, I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up today. Because not only are you showing up for yourselves, but you're also showing up for everyone else. Today, I want to start off by asking you a question. Have you ever wondered why you were born? Have you ever thought about it? What was the purpose of me being created? Each and every one of us were born with a purpose deep down inside of us. Each one of us. It might not be clear in the beginning of what that purpose is, but through channels in life, through experiences, through emotional changes and decisions, you begin to develop who you are. And as you're developing, that purpose is too. We like to think sometimes that the things that we go through in life, the hard things, the challenges, they're meant to beat us down and strip us of the things that we want. But that can be far from the truth. Far from the truth. When I was 5 years old, my Uncle Steve took me into a salon, a hair salon. He used to flirt with one of the hair salon ladies in the salon. And I remember when I used to go to this salon, I used to sit and wait in the lobby. And I remember one day sitting in one of those lobby seats, swinging my feet, watching a lady, heavyset African-American lady, sitting in her chair with a big dryer bowl over top of her head. And the lady stood there staring at me, watching me swing my feet back and forth. And I remember the booming voice as she tried screaming over this hair dryer. And I remember her asking me, baby, who who are you? And at the time, I knew exactly who I was. And I told her, I'm Chester Jr. And I said it with a lot of umph in my voice. And she said, baby, the Lord has you favored. The Lord is telling me that you're going to be something great one day. And I took that day and I held on to it. 10 years later, I ended up in prison, 15 years old, adult prison, not juvenile prison. And I remember having a conversation with God, and I argued with God, and I cursed him, and I was so mad because that woman told me that I was going to be great, that everyone was going to know who I was one day. And how when I'm going to prison at 15, you don't bounce back from that. You're staying now with a felony on your record. What was I to do at that point? I felt like it was over. But God told me that day, listen, just chill. You keep learning. There's a purpose behind all of this. You just got to live it out. You got to keep experiencing. You got to keep growing. And I heard him saying all of this stuff in my head, and man, it just didn't click with me. So I kept bumping my head. I kept making those mistakes, and I kept developing. I kept experiencing, and I kept learning. I eventually ended up in federal prison. And I had already done like 3 stints in state, and now I'm going to federal prison. Man, come on, man. Life's pretty much like over. But see, I didn't understand why I kept getting myself into these little situations. And it was because I didn't understand what my purpose was. And I'm trying to chase everybody else and what everybody else wanted me to be. And I wasn't chasing who I was meant to be. So I kept making mistakes, and I started realizing, you know, with these experiences that I was going through, that the apple tree was not produced for the apple tree. It was produced to give fruit to anyone who needed it. I didn't understand the voice inside of me. I didn't understand that. But I was about to start understanding quick, because on my last prison number, there was an inmate in there who lost his whole entire family in a rollover car accident that took his mom, his dad, his wife, his sister, and a couple of their kids. Killed everybody. And they were coming to visit him. So he took that as, this is my fault. None of this would have happened if I wasn't in jail, if I would have corrected myself. So I started to realize this apple tree thing, the things that I do, the things that I produce, no matter if it's good fruit or bad fruit, is going to affect the people around me. So I got out of jail and I changed. And I started working a good job. And, you know, working that job, to me, I'm thinking my purpose is, I'm living in that purpose because now I'm not getting in trouble. No, it's not that simple. You see, that purpose that you got inside of you is greater than what you could ever imagine. You just don't know it because you're not exercising it.
Right.
Exactly. Exercising it. So one day I'm out working, and I know many of you know this story, but one day I'm out working, and I'm working for a company that I used to work for before I started my business. And I was working in a bucket truck, had the sock monkey hat on, and I'm working on this bridge that only has one sidewalk that you can walk across. And guess who's working on a pole light that's almost about in the middle of this bridge? Me. And out of the distance, a male is headed my way. And watching this guy approach me kind of makes me want to speed up a little, but man, it's cold outside. I got the sock monkey hat on. It's the wind is blowing up there at this height, so it's hard to work with gloves on. So you got to take the gloves off and try to work with the screws with your hands. And now it's making your hands even colder, so it's making it difficult for me to get this pole done in time. Well, in the process of this man comes about halfway up the bridge, stops, doesn't pay me any mind. He turns and he looks out over the bridge. And he stands there for a minute, and I'm trying my best to try to get this stuff done in time. But like I said, it's taken me a while to get it done. So the only thing I can think of is to say something to this man. Something. Everyone knows how Kansas City weather is, so everyone knows that it can be shining outside. The sun can be shining, but it can be cold as heck. But I told him that day, even though it's cold out here, at least the sun is shining. And I told him I'll be down in a minute. Be patient with me. But until then, man, what a beautiful time it is to be alive. Beautiful time to be alive right now. The man finally looked up at me. And he turned and looked at me and gave me this crazy look. And turned around and walked back the way he came. About a year later, I'm in Quick Trip gas station. I'll never forget. On Farley. And excuse me, because when I get to this point, I don't know why it gets me. But it's off of Farley and 87th Street. And I'm in this Quick Trip gas station at the counter waiting to pay for gas. And I have harnessed on. I got my bucket truck outside. And I got this sock monkey hat on. And I'm doing the same thing I did the year prior, working out of a bucket truck. And there's a guy on the other side of the counter who's just staring at me. And he's looking at me like he knows me. And I'm looking at him like he knows me. And the guy, he gets his order taken before me. And he approaches me. And when he started approaching me, the first thing came to my mind is this guy knows me from work. And the guy walks up to me and he asks me, "Do you work in a bucket truck?" And I say, "Yes." This guy's a property manager. I know he knows from work. Nope. The guy said, "Can I hug you?" And for a moment, I was like, whoa, okay, I guess. The man could have carried me out of the store, y'all. He embraced me, for real. But he embraced me. He whispered in my ear, "Thank you for saving my life." And when he said the words, I stepped back and chill bumps just shot through my body. And he walked out of the store, but that day, it dawned on me. I saved this man because of the voice. My voice. So listen up, people. If you're looking for that purpose, don't spend so much time looking outward. It's right inside of you. It's that voice you use every single day. Thank you for listening to my powerful message. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. But I also want you to understand that if you're looking for some purpose in life, just reach for your voice. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, stay positive, people.
Wow, talk about powerful, right? And speaking into that, those voices. Thank you, Coffee Cup Chuck, for acknowledging and being willing. You have to be present enough, first of all, right? To acknowledge the voice, and then to have the wisdom, the courage to say the words after they come, because you're busy working, right? You don't have time to mingle and all that stuff while you're up there, but you did it anyway. And what a difference that made in not only that man's life, but I'm sure it ripple affected many, many, many times after that. So thank you.
A beautiful example of the journey of a man who went from his voice being lost in the world and seeing the repercussions of that to stripping away, getting to the truth, and then flipping the script and then seeing the effect that small voice can cause in somebody else's life. So thank you for staying open and staying true to who you are, Coffee Cup. We appreciate you and we love you.
You mentioned flipping the script, and our next speaker, I can't think of a better way to describe what she's done with her story, what she's done with her purpose in life. And we would love to welcome for her to tell you more about this story, Shannon.
For much of my life, I thought I knew what home was. A place where you're taken care of, seen, and safe. But what I've learned is that sometimes the hardest home to find is the one within yourself.
Right?
I was born with my disability, and I have very, very, very strong parents. But because nobody knew in that delivery room that I was going to have a disability that day, everybody was thrown into survival mode. They gave me everything that they could, everything that society told them that they needed to do. But what we were all missing was connection. Our relationship was based on doing appointments, routines, tasks, even traveling for sports, because they tried to give me the best life possible, the most normal life possible. We all learned how to survive externally and thrive externally. What we didn't know how to do was feel. So I chased titles: student, employee, athlete, anything that would keep my disability in the background. I thought if I performed well enough that nobody would notice what I was trying to hide, including myself. I always felt judged when I didn't perform well enough, until I realized that the harshest judge in the room was me. The day I stopped running from my disability was the day that I met myself for the first time. I started looking at it as a gift instead of a burden. And at that moment, it was like a cage door opened in my mind. I could actually exhale. I could breathe. You guys have seen it happen in real time. The last 6 months has been when the most growth has happened. My life looked perfect on the outside. But on the inside, I was screaming. Because deep down, I knew that wasn't me, even though I didn't know who me was yet. Now I know home isn't a place or a title. Home is the moment you stop apologizing for who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So many people with disabilities never get a chance to have a voice. Not because they can't, but because they're sheltered by society and the people that actually take care of them, even if it's unintentional.
Mm-hmm.
My mission is to change that. Finding my voice has been the hardest and most important journey of my life, because finding my voice was finding my way home. If you've ever felt like a stranger in your own body or in your own life, I want you to know Your home is waiting. And it's not out there. It's in here. And each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Your home is here, right here in your heart, waiting for you to acknowledge it. Right? It's just waiting on an acknowledgement. It's not something we're chasing. It's not something that other people are going to necessarily validate within you. It's something you have to validate within yourself and get comfortable enough with yourself that you're willing to step in it boldly. We've been hearing the word embody a lot this week. And it's truly something you have to embody, and that's where the proof will show, right? If you're home or if you're lost.
I love what you said. Finding your voice is finding your way back home. Who's in the process right now of finding their voice? So who found their voice? Can you say, I found my voice?
I found my voice.
Found
I
my
found
voice.
my voice.
Your message and what you shared resonates so deeply with me because it's the process of holding it all in, pretending like everything's okay, while inside you're extremely tense, right? Because I've done my own inner search and deep diving, and it's one of those things as a child, is your mind wants to protect itself, so it projects these barriers outside, and these barriers look like things have to look a certain way. So I got to play the game how it needs to be played in order for me to receive what I think I need. And that over time, it compromises your own inner voice because now you're listening to the chaos of the external world. Sometimes it is chaos, sometimes it's not. It seems like it's truth. It's hard to discern. But you think this is what's best for me. You take that on, becomes who you are. Next thing you know, you lost yourself. So how to get out of that? A pause, right? A break, an interruption, a disruption that allows you to sit back and say, what have I been doing these last number of years? And is that still resonating with me right now? Is my body still reacting to that? Or is it saying, screaming at me, telling me to do something different? So thank you for pausing. Thank you for censoring yourself and coming to this stage and coming back to yourself, coming back home to your own inner voice and to your spirit. But so with our next speaker, it's another person who has been walking a path of finding his voice. He's found his voice. It's a process of constantly finding and refining. And this man has a voice. He sings, he's a background in theater and performance, and he has rhythm. But the best thing is when you connect that outer rhythm to your inner rhythm. And you allow your own season to emerge at the right time. And you listen to your voice. So this is a man that has been listening to his voice and has been at the right place at the right time. So I want you to give a warm round of applause for Evan Outry Long.
Thank you. You know, I'm so angry. I'm so angry and I want to point it at someone, but the only person I can point it to is myself. I'm angry for how you didn't give me the energy that I gave you. I'm angry that you didn't love me the way that I loved you. I'm angry you're honoring your energy. And the anger is coming from dishonoring my own emotions, dishonoring my own love, dishonoring the person that has been with me my entire life, my true best friend. I kept ignoring him for other people. I kept ignoring him so that I could gain validation, gain love from other people. as I pause, and as I take a breath, and as I recognize, and as I honor that anger, as I honor the tears, and I honor myself, I feel the anger lifting. I feel the peace pouring in, and I see myself, the tears streaming down my face. I'm using to clean that mirror, to let it shine, so that I can see truly who stands in front of me. I say this as my prayer and invocation for myself. By the flame of my soul and the breath of divine light, I withdraw my energy from all who do not honor my presence. I reclaim my power from every place I overgave, and I honor my own energy. My boundaries rise like sacred walls of gold, no touchy. My spirit becomes my sanctuary, and my sanctuary becomes my throne. I disappear from what drains me, and I reappear only where my essence is cherished. I choose who sees me. I choose who hears me. I choose who receives me. I return home to my own spirit, and I reemerge as sovereign light, saving myself. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful expression of honoring your voice and honoring thyself, right? And how do we teach others to honor us in the way that we were meant to be honored, right? How can we help others understand how to honor us? By honoring thyself, right? You have to show people how you're willing to be tolerated and treated, and the type of space that you're willing to share with other people. Thank you, Evan. That was beautiful, and I could feel that it touched many in the room, including myself.
Yeah, thank you for sharing and being open and being vulnerable, because that's a topic that I feel like, you know, we all are facing or have faced at one point in time and will face again, is valuing our own space, valuing our own energy, and also being clear on where we belong and being where we're celebrated and understanding what that looks like, right? Removing the fog and the disillusionment and the need for appreciation or acceptance, even though we do need that, where is it coming from? Where is that source? So it seems to me like you are finding that source and you are getting clear on your own boundaries, your own energy, and your value. So everybody that's in the audience, where are you extending energy that's not being reciprocated? Where are you trying to make up for time and trying to force things to happen that it's not aligned? Where are you willing to let go and just allow things to be without feeling the heaviness of the guilt and the shame that comes along with that? That's a part of honoring yourself and saying, my inner voice says I need to step back and just relax for a bit. I don't have to make an excuse for why I don't want to come. I just got to be here. This is my excuse. I need time for me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they don't understand, you got to honor that,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's clear. Sometimes it's hard, but that's part of the process of activating your voice.
So our next speaker, in true activate your power now form, couldn't think of the right word, we have a new activator to share today. So we're always excited about that, because activation is not just about activating yourself and then patting yourself on the back and going out in life and being like, activated, get on my way. It's to share with others, guys. It's to share with others. So we are so pleased and honored to share our new activator with all of you. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi,
Good morning.
is it still morning? Okay. Good morning. So I want to talk a minute about my favorite subject in the whole world. And some of you are going to go, yes, and some of you are going to go, mm-hmm. Science, physics, energy. Okay. Einstein said a quote that I actually didn't learn until long after formulating my own ideas about physics and energy. But I learned it and I went, yes, yes. He said, match the frequency of the reality that you wish to achieve, and you cannot help but achieve that reality. This is not philosophy, this is physics. And what is your voice, if not vibration? But finding your voice, not a voice. We all talk, we talk every day. We pull up at the drive-thru, we order our McDonald's. We tell our kids, shh, right? I grew up in a house that said children should be seen and not heard, right? I went to school and my report card said, she's so smart, but she talks constantly in class. I went into corporate work at an early age of 16, 15 actually, when I started working for my dad's corporation, which led me to get other opportunities. And as a woman in corporate, I was told to be quiet all the time, especially when I had out-of-the-box ideas. I'll never forget when I was in a meeting with all of my leaders, and I was a team leader of an IT team at that time. And we had someone facilitating the meeting, and they said, this is the way we have to use this particular software. And I had found a much better way to do it, right? And so I said, well, I have a suggestion. And I spoke up, which I never usually did because I was supposed to be quiet. And I said, let's do it this way. Well, I said, this is the way that's working for me, right? And this is the way that I think will help others. And the woman, who wasn't even part of our leadership team, she was just the facilitator of the meeting for the software, piped up and said to my equals and my superiors, if you guys are doing things the way Melissa is doing it, you are a failure. I, of course, immediately had a mental breakdown and went on leave of absence. Like it was a whole ordeal, right? And I began thinking through my life about how I'm constantly told you talk too much. Or when I spoke up that my ideas were so out of the box that it scared people. It wasn't that they weren't good ideas. Please, they were great ideas. But they were scared to do things different than it had ever been done, and especially from someone who shouldn't be speaking to begin with. Well, then I decided I'm going to get the hell out of corporate. I'm done with this mess. And I went and I started working with developmentally delayed and autistic foster children in a residential facility that could not be adopted. I had a really hard upbringing. I probably should have been in foster care, right? I was really good at lying to CPS, let's put it that way. So I felt so deeply attached to these kids, and I was like, oh, this is it. I found my purpose. This is the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And once again, I found myself in the same situation that led me to starting the business that I have now, which is doing all of the work with none of the accolades, title, or credit. I didn't need the credit. I loved the kids. But what I realized is that my boss at that time was absolutely the same type of abusive narcissist I was raised by. And I was choosing my own abuse this time. And while the physical wasn't there as much as everything else, I was doing it to myself, working 60 hours a week, thanklessly. Not the kids thanked me constantly. I loved my babies. I still love you. But here I was, and I spent 20 years learning quantum physics and business because I had been an executive assistant to the CEO of every type of corporation you could think of. And I learned like that. But I don't have past an 8th grade actual education because of the fact that I was too smart for my teachers. And so when I spoke up and asked questions and used my voice, well, I was told I was interrupting class because they couldn't comprehend why my complex question actually made sense to what they were teaching. And so every place I went in my life, I was told to shut up. Now, as a hyperverbal autistic, let me tell you how not easy that was, okay? Because I like to talk. One day, it was Christmas Eve of 2024. I had decided that October, I really wanted to speak my truth and activate my, what I call cellular purpose, the thing I was designed by God to do. And I really got inspired because I went to go see Temple Grandin speak. And I don't know if any of you know who she is, but she is a very famous autistic activist and engineer, very out of the box thinker, someone I admire very much. And I got a chance to go see her speak. And as I was walking around to the different booths of the speakers, and I met her, sat with her, talked with her, she signed my book, she's incredible. I kept saying what I wanted to talk about. Not what I was talking about, not what I was out there saying, but just, oh man, if I ever have the courage to stand up and speak, this is what I want to say. And every single table said, you're going to be the next Temple Grandin. Which was like, no, I talk too much, right? So fast forward back to Christmas Eve, and I was alone. I was isolated. I was living in Northern California. All my family's here in Kansas and Missouri. But I moved to Los Angeles by myself when I was 17 because I was like, maybe it's the place. Maybe I can have a voice over there. No. Location only matters when you're selling property. So I'm sitting there, and it's Christmas Eve, and I'm alone. My daughter was with her father. They were doing their own family thing, and we have a wonderful connection. Like, it was just, that's where she was. I worked that day, and it hit me that I was reliving my own abuse, both in work and at home, combined in one place, and I was choosing it. I immediately got really sick that night. My throat started hurting, and I got a fever, and my best friend came over and was like, do you want me to take you to the hospital? Because I couldn't sit up. I didn't have the energy to sit up. And I have never had COVID to this day, but I thought maybe this is the time, right? This is when I have COVID. And so I said, no, I don't want you to get it. I'll be fine. And as the night went on, I started going into fever shock, having violent shakes, biting my tongue till I was bleeding. And I got real somber and quiet and cold and then warm and then sleepy. And then I heard my father, who's been dead for 18 years, say, get your ass back there right now. You have too much shit to do. And I was like, holy shit. And I started the healing work I needed to finally beat the boss level, right? And I went to work one day, and she was being extra toxic. And I said, I'm done. And I laid out what I wasn't going to do anymore. And I laid out what I wasn't going to take anymore, and what I wasn't going to be not paid for anymore, et cetera, et cetera. And she, of course, threw a tantrum and fired me. And I, of course, sued her and won. But the point was this, that I got the courage to speak my truth. And my truth is a very important truth, just like every single truth in this room. Because I started what's called the Self-Awareness Project, CELLF. And that's because we are each a cell in the greater organism. And we each have a cellular purpose thing we were designed by God to do. And if we're not serving that purpose, if we're trying to be something else, it is the equivalent of the body. If you had a heart and a liver, and the heart cells one day were like, damn, that liver cell is living the life. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna go see what's up. Runs over there. They all run over there. Now you have an extra growth on your liver. That's called cancer. Yeah. And now you don't have a heart. Each and every one of you are a cell in the greater organism. If you're not speaking, if you're not using your voice, you're not living your cellular purpose. You are causing cancer in the greater body and in your own. And so I leave you with this. If it takes dying, find your voice and use it, because it was given to you for a really important reason. And you are needed in this world. And what you have to say matters. Thank you.
Thank truth to what she just shared with you all. And one of the big takeaways that brought me, it was a full circle moment for me, was where you just explained that we're all part of a big body. And it just reminded me when we first started, and we actually were going to call ourselves one. For that exact reason. That's what we were being awoken to, right? What role do I play in the great body of existence, in the great body of humanity? And although our roles seem very minute and little and irrelevant, I'm telling you right now that we are all super powerful. We all are given a great divine purpose, and it is our responsibility to live it. Life is going to try to muffle it up. Life doesn't want you to know what it is. At least that's what it feels like. But it's there. It's there for you to become aware of. But it requires that grounding, that willingness to practice being present.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something before we bring up?
Yeah, thank you. You know, with what you reminded me of and what you were bringing me through, and I'm sure everybody else, is the process of what it costs to really be the boss. Right? So let's reframe that, right? Be the boss of your own life, where you don't allow the hang-ups of life to drag you down, and you just know you're centered in that voice and your truth so much that you know that things are going to align for you, right? And being brave enough to just allow that to be, and making those decisions from that center point and trusting in that, even if, like, there's times when, like, you brought it back to the original of us being called one as a team, but even before that, just us being here in our Speakers Academy, where we were learning how to curate a speech and how to talk, and going up there for the first time, it felt like I was going to die, literally, right? And then after that, it just gets easier, right? Because that first step, you need a lot of courage, and after a while, you realize, oh, it's okay, I got this, right? And then the guards, it lowers the fences, they lower, and they're able to, like, be yourself, be able to actually run and walk in your truth without worrying about what everybody else thinks. So thank you.
Yeah, you spoke a lot of power into us and all the people watching and listening, so thank you. While we're on a powerful woman note, on that category of women trailblazers, women that are willing to use their voice in a man's world, right? Willing to show up no matter how big you are, right? Because some things come super mighty in small packages. But I will say this, when we first started and we were activating our voice in 2021, we didn't know what that meant. We were projecting, but we were doing it quietly. We were doing it without the confidence because we weren't sure yet. It wasn't clear what was ours to do. As soon as we met this person, she saw a lot of the things we couldn't see still at that moment. And praise God for that, because she spoke, she used her voice, and she spoke so much life into us and so much life into our organization. And we're just forever grateful, forever thankful, and we're super duper duper excited that we get to collaborate, link arms, and walk this path with this person. So we love, please everybody, let's stand up again and let's give this great applause to Brenda Ringwood, the Professor of Change.
Your voice is a gift, right? It's a gift, and we all have a voice. But we think of our voice as being a volume, and it's not. Your voice is your identity. Your voice is your identity. Your voice is how you communicate. It's how you show your feelings. It's how you get what you want in life. But before we talk about finding your voice, because I've heard it said many times today, we have to find our voice. It's already there.
Yes.
You have to activate it.
Yes.
If you don't activate it, it's just going to sit there.
So in my previous life, I used to be a janitor, and I would strip floors. And to strip a floor, it means you have to take the wax off of a floor. And a chemical was used to do that. It was called stripper. Not the kind that stands on a pole, the stripper you put on the floor. But if you just threw that down, it didn't do anything. It might muck it up a little bit, it might gum it up, but it didn't do what it was designed to do. What it was designed to do was to remove the wax. It didn't get activated until you added water. That water has hydrogen in it and oxygen that when added to the chemicals of the stripper would activate it. And when you did that, now things happen. Your voice is not lost, it's buried. It's buried under trauma. It's buried under what people tell you. It's buried under who they tell you you are. Your voice is yours and yours alone to use. Did you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You have to unleash what's inside of you. You have to dig it up.
Yeah.
And you have to use it. Because until it's activated, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. Look what happened when Martin Luther King activated his voice.
Mm-hmm.
You have that power. It's already in you. But if you do nothing with it, nothing's going to happen. Change only happens when you activate. Change only happens when you make use of what you already have and you find your purpose. Your voice is who you are. Your voice will create your destiny. Your voice will create your legacy. Don't we all want a legacy? Legacy is not money. It's not a business. Legacy is you and you alone, and only you will create your legacy. What you say and do right now is your legacy. And everybody says, I want to leave one, but I tell you, you got to live it first.
Right.
You have to live that legacy, because if you don't live it, there's nothing to leave.
Right.
There's no example to follow. What do you want people to say about you when you're gone? You want them to say something they said, just like Chuck said, changed my life. What are you willing to do to live the legacy now? The trauma and the trials and the tribulations and everything you're going through right now, it has a purpose. Nobody wants to hear from everybody, right? We want to hear from the people whose stories resonate with us. That means you. They want to hear from you, not your mentor, not somebody who sings and is famous. They want to hear from you. Noah found his voice. Did he not?
Right.
He found the courage to activate his voice by building the ark, and that changed mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And many years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago, I shared the story of Nellie Bly with you guys. You guys know who she is?
Mm-hmm.
Some of you might have been there. Nellie Bly was a female in the 1800s. We didn't have many rights back then, right? We were supposed to be barefoot and pregnant.
Right.
Well, she wanted to be a journalist, and she wanted to make things happen. She wanted to share other people's stories by finding her own voice. Then she says, I already have a voice. I need to activate it. And everybody, because it was a man's world, kept shutting her down time and time again. But she was talented, and she had a voice. So she went to New York City, and she went to the biggest newspaper there was, and the guy said, I see something in you. I'm going to give you a chance. But first, I want you to go over here to this female insane asylum, and I want to know what's going on over there. So she went, she changed her clothes, she got dirty, she pretended like she was needing mental help, and she got admitted. You can't just admit yourself back then like you can today. A doctor had to deem you insane. So she went into this mental institution. She spent many days in there. And what she found out was that the conditions were horrible. They didn't have blankets. It was cold in New York City in the winter. They didn't have the proper food, the medication. They didn't have the right doctors. And when she came out, she started undercover journalism. You think she activated her voice?
Mm-hmm.
Not only did she do that, she raised over $1 million. It's a lot of money today. It was a whole lot of money back then to get them the food that they needed, to get them the help that they needed, to get the medicine that they needed, the blankets, the clothing. Did she activate her voice?
Yes.
Who's stopping you right now? You. Nobody is stopping you but you. So it's time to activate your voice. It's time to dig it up, and let's get out there and share your story, because your story is going to help somebody, somewhere, somehow, some way. And it starts with you.
Yes.
See you guys later.
That was great, and I do remember when you shared that story, because I was in awe by her, right? Inspiring. It's a very inspiring. And what are you willing to do? I mean, that was very extreme, which she was willing to do, the path that led her to the activation of her voice. But I love that you posed those questions. You know, what are you willing to do to live your legacy now? Because otherwise there's no legacy to leave behind. I love that. And I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna use that in my own life, you know, that question to help guide me as I'm creating this legacy that I will be leaving behind. So thank you so much.
Look, I want everybody to say, I own my voice.
I own my voice.
Say it again, I own my voice.
I own my
Everybody
voice.
right now that's listening, that's online, you say it too, I own my voice.
I own my voice.
Because it's there, right? Because there's times when there's so many different voices that's speaking through you that you don't even know what's happening. The voices of the past, of your mom, of your dad, of family and friends, that they told you this is how it needs to be, and now you're saying this, and it's automatic. And like, is this still my voice? So it's like there's a process of activation of stripping back the layers and getting true and real with yourself. And realizing that what I have and my journey and every experience that I went through is valuable. Whether it's seen as negative or positive, is valuable because I'm valuable.
Right.
Bottom line, nothing else needs to be attached to that because I'm worthy. Every experience I went through has some meaning to it that either I can learn or somebody else, which makes your story even more powerful, paving a way for your destiny. Say it again, I own my story.
I own my story.
Yes. That brings us to our next speaker, which is a person who has used her voice to liberate the masses. She speaks on bullying. She speaks on being kind, being gentle, understanding yourself and understanding how you're being perceived by others and how to align your voice with the spirit of gratitude, the spirit of peace, the spirit of trust, the spirit of love. And she embodies that in her actions and her behaviors and just her posture, her smile, everything. So let's give a warm round of applause for Stephanie.
I am so grateful to be standing here today, smiling and not crying, not sad, not unhappy. I have learned to activate my voice, which means so much to me, and it just brings me so much joy. I just get excited when I think about where I was and where I am today. I'm in such a peaceful place now in my mind. I'm not worried about what people think about me. That's not my concern. And I used to be so concerned about what people thought about me and how people felt about me. I don't care. That's your problem. Whoever you are, thank God he's delivered me from the thoughts and opinions of other people, OPP, other people's problems. So again, I'm so grateful for where he's brought me, and there's 5 powerful words that I want to share today. Awareness is the first one. So I'm aware of who I am. I'm aware of where I've been. I'm aware of where I'm going. And I'm thankful. And I just keep saying I'm thankful. I have an attitude of gratitude. And I'm authority is another word. I'm kind of stumbling because I'm too excited, so I had to calm myself down so I can speak. So I'm aware of who I am. I'm aware of where I'm going. I'm aware of what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm aware. Awareness is huge because I always wonder where I was supposed to be. What am I supposed to be doing? And now that I know I had this experience of bullying, because other people don't know what it is, don't know what it looks like. They do for kids. That's the first thing I hear when I say something about bullying. But adults, kids grow up to be adults that bully, that never dealt with the situation, so they continue to bully. So now I understand that I have authority, yes, authority to use my voice, to activate my voice, to speak on the behalf of others. So I finally woke up to who I am. And my strength, the strength inside me has been waiting for permission to speak. So again, I stopped seeing myself through other people's eyes, opinions. I don't care nothing about that. And I never would have thought I'd be here because I cried so much, wanting people to value me, to want me, to invite me in. And that doesn't happen with everybody. So, I had to learn to be okay with that. And then I had to get into alignment. That's another powerful word. What I'm doing and what I speak has to line up. They have to become one in order for me to go where I'm supposed to be going in life. And then courage is another powerful word. How many people in the room and out there, how many people have watched The Wiz or The Wizard of Oz? Yeah. The lion. The cowardly lion. He thought he was born that way. He thought he was supposed to be that way. And when he made it to the wizard, he gave him a drink of courage. And he realized the courage was always on the inside of him. So I had to realize courage was always on the inside of me. Love and everything that I need, as some of the speakers have already said, is already on the inside of me. Everything that I need is on the inside of me. And then so impact. I had to realize that the experiences that I've had and that I continue to have, are for other people to give them strength. So I have to struggle through it and become a strong person during that time and remember, it's not about you, child. It's about other people that are going through the same thing, that are going to need your strength, your words of courage, your love. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I just love how the messages always just flow one right into another, right? The strength and what one speaker comes and projects is like in great alignment with the next person we have in mind. But thank you so much for that message, because those 5 key words, right? You're going to hear that a lot. You've heard those words a lot through the past 4 years with activating your power. You can't be fully activated without those 5 words being presently practiced in your life. So thank you for that great reminder. You're a great testimony because your results are showing that this way of existing works if you're seeking your peace and your purpose in life. So thank you.
And highlighting the quality that's most needed, courage, especially when you're entering spaces that's unknown, speaking your truth, following your path, listening to your heart, right? That requires immense courage. But the first step you mentioned was awareness, recognizing when I am out of step, getting back in step, aligning yourself, and then taking that next step, even when you can't see the step, because long term it's going to lead a long-term impact, legacy. So thank you for stepping into that.
Yes. And as we're talking about courage, right? She closed that session up with courage. And I can't really think of a better word other than motivational. I've known her as being very motivational the last couple of years. But what I've seen through and through of what the attribute she's choosing to grab onto and hold onto through the ride she has shared with all of us the last couple of years that she's been on in life. But it's courage. I've not once ever seen her let courage go. And that is what has allowed her to come full circle and reconcile, merge, and embody who she truly is. Everybody, please welcome. I'm going to call you the motivational mentor because that's what she is to me. So please welcome the motivational mentor, Heather.
Good afternoon. So I stand before you the best version of myself
Yes,
Ever.
yes.
in 53 years, almost 54. And I don't say that to be cocky. I don't say that in any other way other than to give God all the glory, because without him I would not be here. I was on the stage the first time Activate Your Power ever started. I think I was on the stage that first night. If not, it was maybe the second one. So the people in this room, for the most part, have gone through my journey with me. It wasn't a ride, Izzy. It was a roller coaster. Let's be clear. And so last night when I was kind of thinking about, I've learned not to write speeches for this because every time I do, I get here, I throw them away, and it's something totally different that comes up anyway. So last night as I was thinking about Activate Your Power and how the season's kind of closing and we're wrapping this up, I kind of started going down the path of a memory lane, if you will. And so I'm hoping you'll kind of go with me, because I think the only way to understand how activating your voice can really be shown to you is to show you the living part of it in this room. So I also grew up like Melissa. I had a voice. I was always in the hall talking. We're going to put you in the hall so you won't talk. I just talk to myself. Yeah, I just talk to myself. I talk to the kids passing. I talk to the teachers. Like, you can't stop the voice that needs to be heard. But I was raised to be seen and not heard. I was always usually the only kid in a room full of adults. And I was never allowed to really have an opinion. My mom dressed me until I was a freshman in high school, and then I moved to my dad so I could dress myself. I was raised, you don't leave the house without a full face of makeup and heels. I still kind of live by that. You can ask Bryn. But the funny thing is when I got to this point, and I don't really want to talk about all the trauma because the trauma is what the trauma is. It's done. I don't want to live in that anymore. I use it to tell my story when it's appropriate. But I will say 4 years ago, I stood on the stage, or I sat in the audience and I watched the people on the stage, and the voice inside my head, that voice kept saying, you don't have a story. You've never been in jail like Coffee Cup Chuck. You've never been in jail like Bren. You've never been brown. You've never been black. You've never been all these things. You've never been. And I kept thinking, I've never been in a wheelchair. Actually, that's not true. I've been in a wheelchair for 2 hours, and girl, I don't know how you do it because I was tired and cranky. But I've never lived those stories. I've never been addicted to drugs. I've never been an alcoholic. I can't tell those stories. But then I met Brenna, she said, your whole life has been a story. So actually, I'm better off because I have a whole bunch of different stories to tell instead of focusing on one. But I have to use my voice because I never know who in the audience can relate to the fact that I am a domestic violence survivor. I am a lot of things. I'm loyal. I'm a mother. I'm a sister who's lost my entire family. My sister's gone, my brother's gone, my mom is gone. So I'm someone who understands when you're going through grief. And so what I wanted to say is use your voice because you never know who actually needs to hear it. Don't discredit what you have to say or what your story is because it's not as bad as somebody else's.
Right.
So how can our voice help other people? I sat in a coffee shop with James 3.5 years ago, a hot mess, living in this box. And James said, get out of the box. Who put you in the box? I'm like, what box? I didn't even realize it was in a box. But James and I sat and talked about getting out of the box, and I think we even talked about being naked and free for that year. And that started the process. And then what you'll learn about life is when you think you're on the track of doing something really well, something's going to kick you off. And so then something else happened, and then I can remember a trip to Virginia with Coffee Cup Chuck and Bren, who they laid into me pretty good, in love, and everything they said was true. I was crying, they hurt my feelings. But in the end, what they were saying was true. Why do you not value yourself more? Why do you put yourself down here instead of putting you on the top shelf? That's an important voice. Those voices both were needed. Having lunch with Izzy one day, and she was like, she keeps asking the hard questions and talking about how you're so authentic. One thing about you, you're always authentic. And even though she didn't know, I left that day going, well, at least I've got one thing going for me. I'm authentic. Maybe it's Stephanie, when I walked into Activate Your Power one Saturday, and at the end of the day, she said, I think I need to gift you a devotional. I don't know why, my spirit's just telling me, and I needed that devotional. I needed what that said. Evan, he's not here, but if it's Evan on a BTBY event, just walking up to me on a day I didn't feel so beautiful and saying, girl, you look beautiful today. Oh, do I? It's just our voice, even if it's the simplest things, it's important. And so even if you've been raised like Melissa and I to, be quiet, don't talk, you don't have anything to say, if the enemy gets in your head and tells you no one wants to hear what you've got to say, those are all lies. Mm-hmm. And so even if you don't know why you feel called or led to speak to somebody and just say something soft or something sweet or whatever it is, there's a reason they need to hear what you've got to say. Mm-hmm. So last night, as I was actually doing research for something else, my new podcast is coming out in the first of the year. I came across this and it just really felt like something that would be meaningful for today. So change doesn't begin when someone gives you permission. It begins when you decide to speak. The world doesn't need more silence. It needs voices that are alive, authentic, and unapologetic. So today, we're going to awaken that voice inside of you. And so I hope you leave here today, even if you're a hot mess like I was 4 years ago that just doesn't have any confidence or believe anything that's coming up for you is anything anyone wants to hear. In that 4 years of my story and my experience and my voice, and using my voice, even when it was hard, to tell my story or to support somebody else, just understand that it's needed and your voice is important, even if it's to yourself, because kind of like we've talked about, having self-worth, it all starts here. And what Evan said almost messed up my makeup because it hit so close to home. Like, why do you give so much to people who don't give back? Mm-hmm. So not only your voice, but your tribe, the voices that you listen to, like Brent said, you can't listen to everybody. You have to know who's going to speak to you in love. And so that is in this room, and it's gotten me, like I said, to be the best version of myself.
Yeah, and just seeing it in real time, like Heather said, seeing the transformation, which is exactly why we choose the butterfly for our logo, but not just the butterfly, right? It's a bunch of butterflies that create one big, beautiful butterfly, just showing the unity of us all and the connection. And again, I love the transition because something you spoke on, feeling like you don't have a story because your story feels too normal, right? The next speaker, I remember her saying that to me a couple years ago. She attended for a couple years. And when I asked her, when will you be sharing your story? She said, I don't have a story. No. She felt she was a better supporter than someone that would come bring value to the platform. And so I was curious, and I asked her why she thought she didn't, and she said same thing. I haven't been addicted to drugs, I this, that. And I said, well, then all those people who resonate with what you experienced need to hear your voice because they need to be seen. They need to be validated. Because it's kind of what I picture it as is, I have 3 children and 2 of them being recovering drug addicts, right? There's always was my daughter who chose not to go down that path. But I had to learn in Al-Anon and in other groups, support groups and stuff, that, you know, that normal one, that one not going through all of that and causing all that, that brings on a whole nother level of emotions and questioning their existence, and all of those things. So everybody's story is not only important, but it's valuable when it comes to helping others find themselves in life.
And we're going through right now. We're starting something different. So we just started a new mini podcast series called AYPN Reactivated. And this is speaking of podcasts. If you're dropping yours again in at the top of the year, we're going back and dissecting past archives and then bringing that into the present moment as we launch into our new season in 2026. And going through, we started in November with gratitude in 2022, and then November 2023, 2024, and then this year as well. So between those 2 years, you were speaking on both episodes and seeing how you were in 2022 and how you were in 2023 and how you are right now. This is indicative of a person who is honoring their voice,
Yes.
who is stripping back the layers and walking in their legacy. So I just want to commend you and confirm and mirror that back to you that we see you, we love you, and we honor you as you are. We honor your story as it is, and it's enough.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. We're going to go ahead and transition right into our next speaker. I already gave you a little bit about how she came to the platform. She saw herself as someone who was a better supporter, a better audience for the first, I would say, 1.5 to 2 years. And then she decided, you know what, my story is powerful. I do have something valuable to share with others. And I'm so glad that she did, because she has already touched so many others this year with her choosing to continue to show up, not only for herself, but for others. Please welcome Valerie.
No idea you were talking about me.
Yes.
Valerie. You don't remember that
Valerie.
conversation, Valerie?
What's that?
You don't remember that conversation? I'm glad you don't, because you're up here speaking now.
Get to wear your hat, girl.
Man, because I'm older, I got written out notes rather than a phone. But thank you, everybody. But it's really been a ride, hasn't it? And here we are in the season finale. You know, it's like our own version of dancing with the stars.
Yes.
with our host, Izzy, the intentional healer, and James, everything is love.
Yes.
And we're ending the season by activating our voices. And as I've been thinking about what it means to activate my voice, I've been more aware of how I've always had a trifecta of fears about using my voice. Although I was aware that I'm not alone in those fears, I didn't realize that those fears have not necessarily scientific names, but they have names. So there is glossophobia, which is the fear of public speaking. It's estimated rather, that up to 75% of the population shares that fear. It seems right. There is gelatophobia, which I think is estimated about 30% of people. And gelatophobia is not a fear of the frozen dessert, but of being laughed at or ridiculed by others, especially in public. And then we have salophobia and decantophobia. One is from the Greek and one is from the Latin, and it's a fear of singing in public, which brings me here. So So as I activate my voice at this last meeting, at the season finale, I'm going to sing a song that I fell in love with at a church, believe it or not. People who know me know that I'm not much of a church person. But after a time that I had walked away from a job and money, which is kind of a theme in my life, but I thought I had the better part of the deal, keeping my soul and integrity. But I ended up in Denver, Colorado, which is one of the, I'm an Army brat. Like I was like a sophomore in high school before I began and finished a grade of school in the same place. But so I really didn't have like a, like a real concept of what feels like home, but I felt that when I was in Denver. But I was working on a paralegal certificate and doing volunteer work for domestic violence survivors when my supervisor invited me to come to a service at her church. So even though church isn't really my thing, I ended up going, mostly to be polite. But to my great surprise, I really enjoyed the service and absolutely fell in love with the minister, Reverend Jim, and the diverse conversation. It was diverse in ways that I had never experienced before. And I ended up actually working in the church office for several years, and it definitely set a high bar for my church expectations that hasn't really been met since then, but that's another story. But as I activate my voice with a song and singing a cappella, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I know I'm doing this. It's something that I've never done before, and without these opportunities for growth and support in this lovely community, I never have been able to do this. And even though I'm still having to override the memory of the guy who thought it was funny to tell doubt-filled, insecure me years and years ago that, Valerie, you should sing solo that nobody else will be able to hear you. I'm going to sing the song that I still love to this day from my time at Reverend Jim's church in Denver. And the song is called Celebrate Life. I can tell by the look in your eye that you feel you don't measure up to the grown-ups who were the heroes in all of the books you read. As a child, you had visions of greatness in your head. Don't be concerned, your life has just begun. You are the source, the rising of the sun. Celebrate life. You got a reason for living. Just gotta know who you really are. You don't always feel it. That's why it's hard to believe it. Yet you're a lovable, unique, remarkable, so incredible, unforgettable light in heaven's backyard. Yes, you're a natural, original star. Second verse. Just look at the wonders of earth and sky, from the oceans to mountains where eagles fly. How can you believe in a world such as this, that your life is but chance, just a swing and a miss? Now you can choose to stop wasting time. Now that you know you reflect the divine, celebrate life. You got a reason for living, just gotta know who you really are. You don't always feel it, that's why it's hard to believe it, but here's the truth. You're a lovable, unique, remarkable, so incredible, unforgettable light in heaven's backyard. Yes, you're a natural, original star. Yes, you're a natural, original star.
You did it well. You did it well. I need my notes for this one because I can't pronounce these words that she shared. But what a true representation of what activating your power looks like in real time. She got through glossophobia. When we first talked, I think there was some glossophobia there. Then she got through gelatophobia, right? Being laughed at, because people out there do laugh.
Mm-hmm.
They watch our playbacks, and they think sometimes what we're doing is whatever they want to call it. But we let them laugh, right? And we continue to show up because we know why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the solophobia and decantophobia. What you represented and broke through here, right? The fear of singing. That takes it to a whole nother level, to be able to express from your heart, right? And something that makes you so uncomfortable. That was beautiful. I felt it. I thank you. Thank you for being you, and thank you for being here today.
Look, I didn't know we were like turning this into a karaoke bar.
Where's the drinks?
But like really, that's again going back what Stephanie said. It takes courage, right? Stay on stage and share your voice in that manner, and to sing in that manner. I know because singing and karaoke, that was something I never wanted to do. I never understood why people love to do it. I can do it, when it's
In the shower.
in the shower, in the car. When it comes to doing it in front of people, I'm like, you find that fun? Until I actually was going through my own process and realizing what was stopping that.
Right.
Right, in my mind, getting stuck in there, thinking like, oh, somebody's gonna laugh at me because I can't sing. Right, they're gonna do this and say that, and then realizing just as it was said earlier, just not caring what people think. The blessing of that, when it just downloads into your spirit, and you're like, wow, I can just be myself. If somebody does laugh, who cares, right?
Right.
I'm just having fun, enjoying me. Being in that place is so powerful. So thank you for reminding us through the beautiful example that you just reflected in this moment.
Thank you.
So who do we got up next? I think she's sitting in the back. She's ready to go. She's the activator that's been on this stage since the beginning. She came, she's here. She's a ball of love, a ball of light. And really, she has a powerful message. And it's a message that really is very subtle every time she speaks, but it's really very expressive at the same time. It puts you in this ball of joy where you're like, okay, right, I can feel safe to surrender into my own voice and allow it to be what it needs to be without thinking it has to look a certain way. So let's make this stage extremely warm for our next guest, Julie.
Good morning. Boy, I love when I get to go after a bunch of people because there are so many parts of each one that are already part of what was in my mind and my heart. And I'm gonna start with saying it was kind of interesting when I saw the poster come out because I didn't remember saying that I would do this. I thought I would, but I thought, well, I feel like I've kind of lost my voice this year in a big way, so maybe it's a God thing. And then I realized that it was on my mother's birthday.
Oh.
So today is my mom's birthday. She died 12 years ago. And she is someone who didn't have much of a voice, to the point that after she died, probably my little brother is the person she was closest to. I would say, what did mom really like? What made her happy? What was she into? And even he couldn't say. And that breaks my heart for her. Like a lot of women have mentioned, the time when she was young, when children definitely were seen and not heard. And then grew up in an age where women were not a whole lot better. You were supposed to be seen, you were supposed to be pretty. But you were not necessarily supposed to be heard unless you were just being nice and charming. Anything that didn't fall in the nice and charming realm, you were not supposed to be heard, as Melissa spoke so eloquently, and I have often experienced in my life. My parents were opposites when it came to that. My mother was nice and sweet, and that was the most common way she was described by people later, is your mom was always so nice. And she was, but I remember one time when I thought I saw her do something so out of character that I've never forgotten in all my life. I've wondered, but who was she really? Who would she have been? What would she have said and done if she could have been herself? And that was one time when I don't think hardly anybody else was home, and I came in and my mother was walking through the living room singing Born to Be Wild. And my child, this was my nice stay at home, 70s mom that never rocked the boat, never did a wild thing in her life that I'm aware of. And so part of this talk is a part of my healing with her. Who would she have been if she had had the courage to show us who she was? When she married my father in his early 20s had great dreams. He had been an actor. He had had the lead role in the Shepherd of the Hills play down in the Ozarks. He grew up in a small town in Missouri. He was charming. He had bluster. He had no problem using his voice. Still doesn't. Annoys the heck out of a lot of people. But he uses it. And he was a yeller. And he didn't really actually think a whole lot about women. So he would never have supported her voice. And I was their firstborn child. Now, as you know, the cultural dynamics back there, of course, my dad would have preferred a son. So what he got was me. Luckily for him, I was a pretty headstrong, strong-willed young girl, so I made a pretty good substitute son. And I was probably his favorite son for a lot of my life, with the problem being I was also a girl. So I was supposed to excel and do the best I could, but don't raise your hand too much in class at a certain age, because then the boys won't ever ask you out. So you weren't supposed to intimidate the males around you, which was kind of hard for me sometimes, because I don't necessarily think of myself as superior. I just think I don't think I'm inferior. I don't think that my voice shouldn't count as much. And a lot of people really have a hard time with that. Even though, as like with Melissa, you can have great ideas. So I've come to learn over time that just because people don't listen to you, don't agree with you, or don't hear your voice, doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. Doesn't mean it didn't have value. A lot of times it's their loss. Could have helped them a whole lot, especially with that software. But it's hard because we grew up saying we needed to get our approval on the outside. And no matter what you did, it wasn't coming. It did not matter back in the days, even when, if you were a beautiful woman, if you were blonde and blue-eyed and busty, you were bubbly and fun. But we knew that you were an airhead, didn't have a brain in your pretty little head, and that men take brunettes home to mother, And if you were a brunette, you could be respectable and you were tall, heaven help you, because you were supposed to always be smaller than the guy. And you might be intelligent, but you just weren't as much fun, and you weren't as good eye candy. So you couldn't win. You know, you had to pick the way that you weren't good enough, because no matter the perfect way you were in this role, you always had this whole list of things that were not good too. So having a voice was really hard. I did a lot of thinking about, you know, when we're born, we have 2 natural fears. That's all. It's the only thing we're not afraid of. We can't speak yet, so we're not afraid of public speaking. We are afraid, however, of loud noises. Loud noises and falling. That's the only 2 fears you're born with. Unfortunately, a lot of us heard a lot of yelling when we were young, even in utero. And it does affect your nervous system. It affects who you are. Affects you to this day. Yelling affects people badly. When we're born, we don't have words yet. We have 2 ways to communicate. And it's kind of the yin and yang again. If we're happy, the best we could do is coo. Make little sweet, soft noises. Anything else, we cry. And the longer it didn't get met, the louder we cried. Unless we reached a point where we shut down or no longer expressed at all, which is a tragedy. And I have come to that point in my life where I'm naturally a very talkative, expressive person. And there are times when I have been in situations where what I said ended up meaning so little that I just stopped talking. I will walk away. I will go in the other room. I will not go out around people. And that is sad because I do have a voice. I am the synthesis of what it was growing up, and I've had to learn that I don't know what my purpose is. And I actually have a firm belief at this point in my life that it's probably none of my business, because I would then try and do it perfectly and screw it up completely. So I do the best I can towards my values every day, and what God does with that is my purpose. But if I have to try and do it or something, it's not going to work out as well. So I need to not worry about that and have that just be none of my business. Your voice is more than your words. The crying goes on through your life when words aren't going to matter anyway. When my mother was dying, she hadn't been able to speak for a few days. She couldn't see. She was in hospice, and by divine order, the hospice worker showed up just as she was starting to make her transition. And I had the privilege of watching that woman sit and become like a death doula who helped birth her in through the death process and talk her through it. And when she died, she had tears streaming down her face. She couldn't express any other way. But she could hear and she was still feeling. And that was her voice. So when Evan cried, that was probably stronger than the words that were coming out with it. And when we cry, that's still our voice when words aren't enough. I want to be nice, and I want to be charming, and I want to be liked. But I also want to be strong and intelligent and effective and respected. And I don't know that the world can give us that, but we can try and give it to ourselves and give it to each other. And that may be my purpose, is that I try and give that to people I meet on a day-to-day basis or talk to, that you can be kind and nice and stronger than you know and respected just because you're a human being on the face of this earth. I'm struggling to keep my voice this year, but I'm holding on to that, and just thinking about this talk meant a lot to me. And it's like, I don't have to choose. You know, there's a Janice Stanfield song, and God knows, I used to be able to sing. I lost my voice during a rough time, and it's never come back. So I barely sing in private anymore. If I sing in front of you, I love you to the world and beyond, and I know you're gonna just deal with it. I sing to my little brother on his birthday every year. I said, I know it doesn't improve over the years, but hey, you can count on it. So your voice was beautiful, Valerie, and I'm glad you sang solo, meaning strong and on your own. Never so low nobody could hear you. That was so beautiful and so perfect. And I was about crying. I'm about to cry again thinking about it, and I love you so much. Anyway, I just want to tell you, you can be kind and nice and still strong and respected and worth listening to. And just because no one else sees the value of your ideas, I mean, some of the greats in history and art and everything else were considered washed up failures at the point of their death and then been revered for centuries since then. You don't ever know what saying what you have to say is going to mean to the person next door or the person 100 years from now. You just have to put it out there, right?
Thank you, Julie. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful tribute to Julie's mom, Charlotte, right? Who she said today is her birthday. So if we could all just together wish Charlotte a very happy birthday. Let's do it together. We'll just say happy birthday. We don't have to sing. But 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Charlotte. We honor Charlotte. We honor her legacy. We honor everything that you carry forward, that she brought to the table, right? Because our purpose, guys, and someone just said it the other day. I can't remember if it was you. Can't remember who said this just the other day, but they said all the work I'm putting in right now, it was you. I may not even be, and it might have been with our conversation we were having together, us three. All the works I'm putting forth now, I know I won't be here to watch the full effects of what happens with it, right? But we choose to do it anyway because we have that understanding, right? And even if we feel like we're not showing up in our full purpose, Julie, just everything that I know about you, I've known you always since the day I met you. I knew you were the gardener at the church, right? You produce fruit for people to eat at the church selflessly. That's a gift. That's a gift. That's a purpose. So, and I'm sure it's just one of the many that you have, but thank you for continuing to show up as you and in your purpose.
Yeah, thank you for just explaining just how you had to struggle with the contrast of trying to fit in and what role resonates with you and what doesn't and why it doesn't and why, just the whole complexity of society, and then coming to the point right now where you're just, I am who I am and I'm okay with that. Even if that means somebody tells me I gotta find my purpose, I'm okay with just being purposeless at the moment because that's the season I'm in. And that's in full trust that when I'm ready, right, it will appear. So thank you for just through that. And then also our voice not only comes through our words, but through other avenues, right? Earlier it's tears, laughter, our smile, our eyes, our posture, the way we hold ourselves, when we move in the world, how we activate others. That's all an outer reflection of our inner voice expressed. So thank you for just reminding, it's not just the words, it's an embodiment, who we are, lifestyle.
We have 2 more speakers before we close out today's speaker series and again our 4-year series that we've continued to show up for. And we talked about the different ways of expression of voice, right? And when I think of this next speaker, I think of the expression of laughter because it's something that she's always brought forth since I've met her. And it was like, she's just naturally funny. So, and I love laughing. I love reasons to laugh. And I love when people give me extra reasons to laugh in life. But I found a common denominator. And if you'll come up here real quick, please, Jen. I have found a common denominator, though, with people who have had to learn how to laugh in life, right? It's a beautiful trait to have and to share with others. But a lot of times it comes with some really deep things that people have experienced that they're choosing to laugh rather than to cry. And as I've learned more of her story, I'm like, oh, there's where the laughter There's where laughter carried her, maybe saved her at times. You know, so although I love that she makes me laugh because I love laughing, I have to say I'm just so proud of you and all the things you have overcome and the fact that you choose to continue to show up with a smile on your face and to encourage others to smile as well. So thank you. Our next speaker is Jen.
Our voice is more than a sound. It's more than noise or a volume. It is our legacy. It is our energy. It is our vibration. It is our truth. It is our leadership. And it is profound. And I can't help but stand here. I love your outfit, your blessed beyond measure. I was looking at that the whole time and I was just feeling that. I thought, I wish I could pull that whole, you had matching shoes and everything. I was just so impressed by that. But I was like, blessed beyond measure is exactly how I feel right now, because I think about the fact that I am here, I still have a voice. And I have the opportunity to get to use that voice. And what a gift that is, and something that I can often take for granted. You know, I am 40 years old, so I didn't quite grow up in the time of, you know, children are to be seen, not heard. But when I think about it, I was raised that way, but not with it outright spoken. It was that, you know, my family wanted me to be successful, but I didn't need to raise my voice. It just kind of like blend in with everybody else. Don't draw attention to yourself. So if you can imagine their horror to have a young child, even at 4 or 5 years old, with severe mental illness, how that impacted them. And I really didn't have a sense of identity of who it was that I was and what is my voice. So I energetically took that as just try to be normal. You know, just try to blend in, and whatever it is it may be, find your identity in something. And so for so much of my life, I recognized that my identity was in my brokenness. And later on in life, becoming, you know, a drug addict and alcoholic, not because that was on the career board, the career fair that you had growing up, like, oh, I want to be that, I want to do that when I grow up. And it's like, no. But I felt that that's where my identity was. And so that's where my voice laid of, who the hell are you? What do you have to say? You're just a drunk. Who the hell are you? Because you're just an opioid addict. You're just mentally ill. And so I found that I would stuff myself, I would shrink down and I would play small because there's safety in that. There's safety in silence, even though myself, I am screaming out for something else. And something that I have learned is that if I do not find my voice, if I do not use my voice, if I do not assign a voice in my power, in my truth, in my wholeness, one will be assigned to me from my brokenness and from the unhealed parts of me, that I will pick up what someone has said somewhere in my life at some point in time, and I will take that as gospel. And that is not the truth of who I am. And you did talk about humor. Humor, yes, I grew up in a very funny family. You have to laugh, because otherwise I'm in tears most of the time, just because I'm emotional. And I have emotion, and I've learned to not be ashamed of that. Valerie, I was trying to be quiet. I was crying over here when you were singing because it was so beautiful. And I was so proud of you, and I was listening to those words, and you just made my heart so happy. And what I love too about being with this group and getting to speak is, I think we can all agree this is a pretty forgiving audience, right? Like, this is a pretty safe container for us to be in and stand up and do exactly that, face our fears, jump in, headlong, and grow. And our voice is exactly that. It's a muscle just like anything else. And so when you have the opportunity to use it and a platform to use that, you find that it becomes easier, a little bit easier each time, even though sometimes you want to either pee your pants because you know you're coming up next, or you just get anxious and everything. And it's like, you know what? It's okay. The more that we find that voice, the more that we use it, we stand in our power. And it's not about volume either. I can be really loud sometimes, does not mean that I am in my truth. Does not mean that I am helping other people. But with our voice comes authenticity. And there is such a gift with that. I know, Chuck, you had absolutely, you could not have predicted what was going to happen. It's not like you saw that man coming and thought, well, here's probably what he's gonna do, and then here's what I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna be the hero, and no, you said something so simple that changed that man's life. And I was getting emotional too when I was hearing you talk about this reunion. I love that God thought to put you all back together again, even if just for a moment, to be able to have that because of that's simply using your voice, following your heart, and just saying something that's so simple. Change the trajectory of that man's life and his family and his family's family. And so when it comes to using our voice, it's a process, I think, of like if you were a toddler and you're growing up, you're gonna stumble, you're gonna get embarrassed at times. I learned so many phobias today I didn't even realize. I was like, oh yeah, I got that one too, and I got that one too. And I even remember this story. It's wild this story continues to come to me, but when I was in middle school, I was in a group choir at school. And I ended up, when I was singing, I ended up hitting a harmony. And it felt really good. And the teacher said, stop. Who was that? And immediately I'm thinking, uh-oh, I screwed up. I did the wrong thing. And she was like, who was that? Who was that? And I wouldn't say anything. And Bridget Kerr, who was standing next to me, said, that was me. That was me. And so she said, okay, let's do it again. And she couldn't hit the note because it was me. And I ended up then singing that note and matching that. But to this day, I'm 40 years old, y'all. To this day, that will still occur to me. And there was a time when I was able to I used my voice and I was afraid of it. Because I didn't want to get in trouble, because I didn't know what other people would think and say and feel. So I had to do some forgiveness work around that. Needless to say, Bridget, love you. All the best. It was still me. But I mean, it's just one of those things. We never know the impact that we can make on people. So I thank you so very much. I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this group. And I remember we were at Unity Southeast, and I came because Alyssa's a very dear friend of mine, and she was emceeing, and I thought, okay, well, what's this about? So I went and I sat, and I just remember being mesmerized by the stories. And there was a part of me that said, oh, I think it was James or maybe someone else, but maybe it was you, who said, well, it'd be great to see you up there. And I thought, what do I have? What do I have? What's my story? I'm listening to these inspirational talks. It's funny when we do that comparison, we have that comparison of like, well, this is your story, but it's not my story. And so, but we all have our own story. And how beautiful to have a platform where we get to use our voice and find ourselves in this, piece by piece, begin to find ourselves and find our truth and stand in that power and watch it be magnified. It's incredible. There's some people that I look to that I just, are one of the, Brene Brown, one of them, for example, I just like, I would worship the ground you walk on. I'm so impressed with you. And she would be the first to tell you that she doesn't think she's all that, that she too thought that she didn't have much to share. How many of us actually are hiding behind that or have kind of that persona in the background of who am I? what is my message? What is mine to say? And I have wanted to write a book. There's something about going back to 6th grade. Apparently something going on with 6th grade, but I've always wanted to write a book. I haven't done that yet. And yet that seed is still alive in me, wanting to be nurtured. And I think, who else, I haven't said anything that hasn't already been said. But what's true is that, yes, it hasn't been said in my voice.
Right, yes.
It hasn't been said in each of your voices as well. So we have the opportunity to activate life in ourselves. And when we do so, there is a ripple effect that we don't even know how far out that goes. But how beautiful that we have been given a gift to show up, to have a voice. And so I encourage us all just to continue the path that we are on. No matter what steps it is that we need to take, no matter what life takes you through, all things are working together for good. And I'm so grateful. And that's my time.
What notes are you hitting? Thank you for bringing us back to that. Right? And are you owning those notes? Because like you said, if you don't own your voice, somebody else will.
Right.
So where and how are we allowing our song, our voice to be expressed in this world? Right? Or are we, somebody says, who said that or who did that? Are we shrinking and allowing somebody else to take our credit? Because we're scared of doing the wrong thing, not being enough, not matching up to standards or expectations that other people have for us. That's a part of bringing back your power to yourself and reclaiming that voice and practicing. It's not just a one-time thing, it's consistency, right? You step up and do it again. And each time you get clear, or sometimes you may not be as clear, but your voice may shake, but you're still talking because you have something to say, you know it's valuable, but you're going against the grain. It takes bravery and courage. So I'm seeing a underlying courage, letting go of expectations, and being true and centered in who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're down to our final speaker for today. I thank you all for continuing to be present, continuing to be attentive to our speakers. We stacked up, like I said, the lineup today because this is our grand finale, right, of our speaker series, the way you've known it to be. So, as always, we're going to go out with a bang. Our final speaker today is somebody, like Jen said, who was our MC in 2023 for the whole series in KC And every time I would show up to the event, I was always so eager to get there because I knew she always had this way of bringing the room together, grounding them, and then giving them just something super powerful to take away. And I had my own selfish reasons. I think I've said this to her over and over in 2023, where I was like, pour into me, please. I need this so bad. I was so anxious for it every time we'd go every month. And I just remember one time, her sharing with me, because I said, it's just so natural for you. You're just this light. You're just this peaceful. You have this peaceful presence that just brings me back to peace immediately when I hear your voice. And I remember one time her telling me, this was, I think the same year, but you were speaking at our Johnson County, one of our Johnson County events. And she just said, sometimes I don't want to be that. I'm here today because I want to set that down, the expectations. Thank you for acknowledging what I bring to you, but I'm here to get poured into right now, not to give. I was like, okay. you used your voice. Thank you for expressing that, because now I'm aware, right? And now I've tried really hard not to have that sucking energy since that conversation, because that's really what I was doing. I was relying on her peaceful presence to give me my peace. And although it was great that it was there, it was mine to do, right? But she allowed me that space, and then she courageously used her voice to communicate her truth. And it helped me out so much. And I'm sure the practice of using your voice in that way has helped you out so much as well. So thank you for that. And everybody, please welcome Elisa.
I got lots of notes today. I was thinking about when I was hearing everybody, so I made a couple notes. When I'm hearing everybody's stories and shares and testimonies of Inspiration Day, and it was something that I read a long time ago at an exhibit, and it said, "Without art, there is no civilization." Your voice is art, and without our voices, there would be no such thing as civilization. And that is the activation of voice. It's that sacred moment when inner truth within us finds us. And it is the sound in the world. Every one of us, as we have said today, over and over, has a voice. And the voice that it doesn't just form words, but it's the vibration of how we show up. And I call it's the tone of the soul. In the Gospel of John, it's written, "In the beginning was the Word." The word is translated from Latin logos. It's divine word. And it's about a story about spirit speaking into creation, existence, creation, creating what is possible. And it's a spiritual reminder that our words too are the form, the art, and the act of creation. Each time we speak from love, we activate a divine energy. Each time we declare our truth, we shape that reality that is from the inside that might have been lost in our minds and bring it forth into expression. Because each time we withhold our voice, the universe is waiting. Sometimes patiently, and sometimes it's extrapolating us out for our participation. So have you had the moment when something inside you wants to speak an idea, a truth, a feeling, but your voice just stopped? You almost maybe even got chalky and you couldn't say anything. You knew what you wanted to say. You may have even rehearsed the words over and over in your mind, but you swallowed it. You smiled politely, and you stayed quiet. I've done it. I imagine we've all done it. And then there's that moment that we move into our principles. We might study them, we might hear them, we might just get them at a glance. And we realize our voice is not just a tool for communication, but it's the channel for creation. In the New Thought movement, we say, our thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. But those thoughts come to life when we speak them and when vibration meets intention. In other words, we find our voice when we find our power. I heard beautiful stories and testimonies of power today. Not too long ago, I had this opportunity to speak. There was something that needed to be said, and I didn't say it. And again, it's those moments where I rehearsed in my head about what was it, what was mine to share in that moment. And I have this plaque on my wall at work. It's this beautiful little plate that was given to me by my great-grandmother. And it says, "Be careful of the words you say. You'll never know when you have to eat them. Powerful statement, yes, but not when you take it to an extreme. Not when it paralyzes you to speak what you need to say. Silence is not always safe. It holds us back. So as I was sitting here listening to the testimonies, I was reminded of the very first time that I activated my voice and I didn't even realize I had done it. I was around 4 years old. I was dropped off at a sitter's, somewhere that was supposed to be safe. And I spent a period of time all day in this environment. My brother and I did. And I remember when my mom picked us up in the afternoon, they're all sitting there talking. And even as a little girl, you often see me, I don't know that I've ever worn pants to one of these. I love putting a dress on. But I had tights on, and my mom noticed, she's like, well, Elissa, why are your tights all scrinkly? And I looked at her, and not knowing what I was doing, I was activating my voice. I was like, shh, I'm not supposed to tell. Today, I know that was me speaking from a space that was inside saying, see me, protect me, do what needs to be done. And that created a series of events to keep me safe. Because of course, that's what my mother always wanted to do. It's amazing that when we don't use our voice, we hold back an authentic expression. Because the world loses a piece of us when we don't practice that in divine intelligence that only works through us. So that 4-year-old me self understood that better than I think sometimes as an adult when I stand up here today. I'm not saying that there is not a moment that we do not quiet ourselves, because there is that silence and centering. Because sometimes we do silence ourselves out of fear and politeness or beliefs that we're not enough, or even the guise of kindness. I do that a lot. I'm being kind, I'm being loving. It's not the right thing to say, or it's not the moment. But as we move through in our spiritual understanding, we realize that silence serves two purposes. It can silence the truth, or silence can center our truth. I personally do this through prayer and meditation. I listen from source and let it within me rise words from a whisper that is speaking from the divine, and that allows it to speak through in and as me. The activation of voice, it doesn't just begin in the throat. I believe it begins in the heart. It begins with the still small voice that says, you are here to express. You are here by a divine appointment. And your heart, it's calling you forward to answer. Charles Fillmore, a co-founder of the Unity movement from which I belong, he taught that the power of power, kind of where this activate your power now has its origins. He says, taught the power of power centers in the throat, and that is the faculty through which divine ideas are expressed. The moment we speak a word of truth, I am strong, I am loved, I am guided, I am enough. Big one for me, I am worthy. We are not begging the universe to change. We are speaking alignment into being. So activation of voice, it's really, I heard this, the awakening of an authentic expression. It's when we let go of those performative acts, of the idea of comparing or pleasing, and instead we speak from the divine identity that our voice becomes a healing vibration within spiritual ability to declare the truth, to call forth that which was unseen into form. Our voice is not just our anatomy. it's energy. It's the bridge between the idea, which seems way out here, into manifestation, into where we're demonstrating through our actions. And when we activate our voice, sometimes we talk louder, but what we really do is we speak truer. And then everything shifts. Our words begin to align with what I call the higher consciousness, and it stops the reaction, and then we start being the creation. And so we say and affirm, I am ready, I am worthy, I am loved. We're not just describing our lives, we are designing it. And so I thought of some ideas of how do we activate our voices. Well, first thing, we listen. When we listen first, the true voice, for me, it begins in silence. But not the silence of suppression, but the silence of awareness. Secondly, we speak from truth, not from fear. Fear says, well, what if they don't like it? How do I measure up? How do I compare? Truth says, this is who I am. And when you speak from truth, your voice vibrates differently. It carries clarity and it carries compassion. And third, we use our words consciously with intention. The every I am statement is a brushstroke on what I call a canvas, and it's the canvas of our lives. Every affirmation is a seed that we're planting. We're planting and we're dropping. So the words that we choose, plant peace, not panic. So I want to invite you to breathe with me for a moment, and maybe even place your hand on your throat. The sacred center of your power. And as you do, just take a big, deep, and conscious breath. As I do that, I feel like the heartbeat of my soul right here within the power of my throat. And I feel the vibration of voice, but not my voice that speaks and utter words, but the voice of spirit. And it reminds me that we all have something sacred to say. We all have this ability to bring forth an awareness with intention, because our voice is our instrument in action. So we're here to speak authentically, to give permission to others to do the same. And our voice becomes more than sound. It becomes a vibration that awakens possibility. So I want to invite you to think of your voice, not just as what you say, but as who you are. You are speaking the seeds of creation into life. And as I said, the voice was a form of art. And I wrote this not too long ago when I was having a moment. Most of us have those, I think. and it was one of those moments where I practiced silence as a gift, and I realized that silence wasn't. And it's called An Ode to Myself. Out of the ashes she rose, glimmering in the dust as a mighty spirit. She raised her hands to the heavens and all hushed in reverence. And she began to dance in circles, singing praise and cadence with the wind. A song of love, a song of grief, a song of new beginnings. Listening in sweet surrender, silent tears fell. Joy filled the heart. Peace be still, my love, was her whisper. There was a newfound power in her drive. She was majestic and wild and free. Light flowed from every direction, speaking affirmation of wisdom. I bore witness in awe, grateful and struck in her essence. her beauty magnified as her soul expanded. I took a breath. I closed my eyes. I am she, and she was me.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Elisa. That was a beautiful way to close this up and to send people off right on their way to activate themselves.
When you find your voice, you find your power. Thank you for reminding us of that tidbit. I know it's just the gift of someone sharing themselves authentically with somebody else gives others the permission to do the same. Sometimes we forget that because we get caught up in how things should be. And when it comes time to share, and our voice shakes. And then we take that as a sign that it's something that we don't need to say. Because we keep, then we stuff it back in because we don't want to eat it later. But then stepping through that and realizing like, oh no, I've been stuffing things down for way too long. And now it's time to really allow that to unfold and free myself so I can help others see that they can free themselves too. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for everybody for coming here and sharing again in this space, because this is full circle moment. We started this with activating our voice, trying to find our power, meaning know what maybe what that looks like, but kind of just surrendering to the experience and allowing life to take us to where we need to be, which creative is. It led us to many different people, many different communities and cultures, and just building a space where we can all just be at ease and remember who we are just for a moment. So thank you.
Thank you to everybody.